Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Radiant Black podcast. This is a show about Radiant Black and everything Massiveverse, a series and superhero universe created by Kyle Higgins and Marcelo Costa. I'm your host, Bashar, and I'm joined by my friends.
Brady Matt.
Ali.
And Charlie.
You guys ready to get Inferno blazing today?
Ooh, it's about damn time.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming to talk about this one, and there's a lot to get into. This was an awesome book, lots of awesome stuffs, and yeah, can't wait to get into it.
It's funny how
Yeah.
it's been kind of separate from reality in the story and kind of in the Massiveverse itself. So it's nice to finally get to mend some fences, build some bridges, and talk about this like hidden gem in the Massiveverse that's finally gotten its time in the sun. And spoiler alert, it's fucking sweet, and I'm really excited to talk about it today.
There's a lot to talk about in this book, like Charlie said. It's a pretty long book, which is why we decided to review it all in one go, because we wanted to review it in the same way that it was intended to be released, which is just all in one volume as an original story, an OGN, original graphic novel, sorry. Um, so I read it. I read it in the single issue format and in the hardcover format, or at least in the in the preview format that we all got available. Did you guys read it both ways, or did you just read it the one way?
So myself, I read it twice. I wanted to read it physical, but obviously we got a review copy from Matt. So thank you for that, Matt Groom, earlier. So that's how I read it first. But I've been reading every issue as it came out. I'm still waiting on my hardcover too. The moment it gets here, I'm gonna read it again for the third time.
Yeah, mine's my hardcover is currently stuck. I was telling these guys like super close to my house. It's been stuck there all weekend at a shipping house. So I've been waiting eagerly for that thing to come. And I actually I haven't read this thing physical yet. I picked up all the issues, but they're kind of just bagged and boarded and like kind of in my box. So I've just been kind of reading through the digital and just kind of enjoying the artwork that way. But I've kind of just been waiting for that hardcover to really like experience the physical version of this.
Yeah, I read both the Kickstarter edition and the individual issues. I just wanted to see what the formatting changes were so we could experience it like non-Kickstarter backers, which we were. Unfortunately, we missed it, but luckily we got that sweet review copy. And I read it both just to see the changes, and it was interesting. Obviously, it's probably better in the way it's intended, which is just the one large like volume of it. But I still think individually, I still think it kicks the crap out of most comic series out there.
Agreed. It was a really good series. I'm glad we finally got to it. So let's dive into the whole thing. Luckily, we don't have to actually tell you the creators for each individual issue because, like we said, the whole volume was done by the same creative team, and we've got artist co-creator Erica Durso, and I really appreciate that they put her at the top because I think her work on this speaks for itself. She just I don't know, she blew me away personally. We got writer co-creator Matt Groom, colorist the incredible, the sensational, who by the way, the Radiant Black 24 is on FOC, Igor Monti. They're doing another he's doing another Blacklight edition fluorescent ink finished colors on Radiant Black 24. So make sure you get your hands on that. The FOC for that was a few weeks ago, but we did mention it. And you've got background assistant Lorenzo Tameta. We got color assistant Sabrina Del Grosso. You got letterer Becca Carey. Editor Kyle Higgins, of course. Assistant editor, the amazing Michael Basudo. And design made by For the People. So, and the design, I think I'm assuming that's what's on the back. So that's really cool. Let's dive into it, guys. First things first. We're not gonna get too deep, like not page by page at least, but of course we'll get all the highlights. Before we dive too deep into the details, what did you guys think immediately? First impressions of how the book looks. I obviously just want to give a shout out to the prestige format of the book. It does feel like a black label book at DC, for example. The cardstock is a little bit thicker. It's a square bound book. It's beautiful for the individual issues, that is. I highly recommend experiencing the book either way, but of course, if you can get the collected thing.
This thing was just gorgeous. Like I remember seeing the first preview pages, like was just blew us away. Like obviously after Supermassive, like seeing what Igor could do, and then see him just like in an entire like over 100 pages, like just of awesome action, and like even the non like huge action stuff really looked like great, like all the bright sceneries, and even some of the dark stuff. So it was really just like it almost didn't feel like it definitely didn't feel like a typical comic, but it felt, I heard it a lot, like it felt like an animated like series, like in a way, or like a manga, but just like some of the fight scenes and stuff, like the way he like used the neon colors and all that was just really mind blowing.
Yeah, it just the bright colors. It starts off really bright. I mean, Igor's colors really get to play, especially in that third issue, which is nice. Erica's amazing. Like my only critique on page one, I think Anna's got a wonky eye on the left eye in that middle panel. That's my only critique on the art. Otherwise, I think it's like a perfect book. Like legitimately, like the designs, everything looks cool. Designing Apex City in itself is a feat, like a futuristic city. This is a series that really radiates a lot, and belief is a big theme that I couldn't even mention in the interview. It's that it's that integral, but not until later on to realize like belief is a huge part in this. And like I believe in this creative team, like the Massiverse. Like it's amazing what all these people that Kyle's got in this team together that just radiate and they really believe they can do it, and they can. Like I have a belief now in independent comic. Well, I always had a belief in indie comics, but it's just remarkable. At risk of monologuing, it's everything I want in a book team, and it provided a lot for me.
No, definitely, fully agree. In terms of first impressions, like the thing is we've been introduced to Inferno Girl Red already, so I was already expecting like that vibrant young energy in the book, and you definitely get that right away. But for me, I was kind of excited to read a Massive Verse book that wasn't connected to anything else, and Matt kind of touched on this earlier, so it was a little bit like you're reading something fresh and new, and that was pretty exciting for my first read through.
Yeah, and I like what you said about belief, and I totally I totally got those as well, those vibes, and the same sort of, it resonated with me in the same way. One thing I will say is it's definitely a bifold sort of belief, in the sense that we've got this theme of belief, and this new generation of trying to believe in themselves and their abilities to address the problems in the world in their own unique ways with their own unique skill sets. And the other part is also that belief in the Massiverse, in this creative community that they've built together, that I think is really coming together now, as we've seen with all these different books and titles. So yeah, like it's really cool to see that on both fronts, both in the comic, like obviously metaphorically, and then in real life with the creative team, and this was a Kickstarter book. It took a lot of belief to make this book come to life, and we talked about that with Matt on the interview when we had him on. So check that out if you haven't.
Yeah, Matt was always a delight to have on. He's super modest. If I'm writing books about like this, like you'll hear about it. They'll be like, you can look up and you'll see a plane with a banner talking about my achievements. But yeah, he's super modest, and he shouldn't be when he's doing stuff like this. I don't want to skip ahead too far, but yeah, what were you saying, Charlie?
No, I just like I really wanted to just say, like, right from the beginning, and obviously like this intro scene, like the first time we see the first Inferno Girl Red, like just the way they started, and kind of like it really kind of gave me Rogue Sun vibes in a way, like just kind of set an established hero in the universe, kind of like a first one, and just this first suit, I gotta say, yeah, this is. I think I like this even more than Cassia's, even though Cassia's is awesome. But this thing just freaking knocks it out of the park. Like
The white suit, yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's
this
almost,
white suit is killer.
yeah. The upgrade later, I think, might surpass it. But yeah, for me, that suit is so clean. Not that Inferno Girl Red, like the base form is lame in any
Oh no,
universe.
not by any means, but no, it's just
Yeah.
gorgeous. And that whole first scene's awesome.
Yeah, I like that you guys mentioned that we have legacy, and the legacy definitely sets the tone for this universe. It gives us a sense of familiarity. I like the comparison to Rogue Sun. That's fantastic. It really does feel like that. Fortunately, this one's a bit of a less dark opening. We don't we don't lose
Yeah,
Anacostia, thankfully, right?
yeah,
That would be a huge bummer. But what did you guys think of Apex City upon first glance? Did you get that like hopeful feeling? It felt to me like, you know, when you play a Pokemon game and you just step
Yes.
into the city for the first time, you get to
Yes.
see the map for the first time, and you're like, holy shit, I'm gonna go to all those gyms and I'm gonna get all those badges. And that's how I felt like looking at Apex City. It gave me this sense of like adventure, but like hope at the same time.
Yeah, no, you're totally right, but all as well, like especially in this train scene too, like he was so good at like giving it like its dark corners, like especially at night, like when these creatures came in, like kind of made it scary in a way, like how as much like or how beautiful as it was, like it definitely had its like scary parts when these monsters came in, and it was just really job well done on that.
I'm glad you said that, Bash, because it is kind of like Viridian City in Pokemon. We're like, wow, it's a whole world to explore, and you've got the tools to do so. And that's kind of the feel of this, where it's Kastya going to university, right? It's like it's a big part in people's lives. It's like you're done with high school, and you can really kind of become who you want to be, and you're not surrounded by the same people. You kind of have your own new world to just kind of enter. And Apex City seems like the perfect place to do that, and it definitely set the tone.
You know what it reminds me of? You know those memes where they say like if like we everybody has food, it's like it's the perfect
Yep.
universe. That's what Apex City looks like. It's like
Yeah,
the
pretty much.
perfect utopia.
Yeah.
Everybody's happy, great, and no one
Yeah.
dies. You know, it's
It's very
good.
open-minded. Like
Yeah.
you have like a youth kind of take charge kind of feeling, right? Like the school they go to is very I don't know how to say progressive. Like it's very progressive. They have all these like new teaching techniques, and they don't like have conventional teaching in certain ways. There's a lot of like applied teaching, so they have the students go literally learn. At one point, you know, something happens in Apex. I mean, actually, we're getting up to this. We might as well talk. So yeah,
Well, they sit
uh,
on the floor. Can you imagine going to school and sitting on the floor?
I
Like
mean,
some of them are
yeah.
like laying down. Like that sounds
It's got
awesome.
like, don't they have beanbag chairs too? Like it's like they invite stoners. Really? No, I'm just kidding. But
Yeah,
yeah,
little
it's kind of.
pillows and yeah, just little cushions and yeah,
It reminds
it's
me of
interesting.
Shambhala. In Halifax, we have a school like that. It's like kind of like a Buddhist school where a lot of kids
Wow.
go, and it's like a completely different kind of form of teaching. Obviously, this is way more advanced and way more like realized. But yeah, it's interesting, right? Because it is such a structured environment to learn. So I like that we're kind of taken away from how other people would learn. Like, there's no film school for martial here. You know, you're probably learning how to do like legitimately kind of like how to apply what you know and think a different way, which I think is really cool than just kind of like trying to regurgitate information. Having students think for themselves is really good for someone who has to think for herself in Kasha later on.
Right, and you mentioned this earlier, the placebo effect. Do you want to go into that?
Well,
Because when we meet the professor, who her immediate introduction, she wants people to explain the placebo effect, right? She wants them. Well, they had a discussion about it with the classroom. I got to say, this is a little bit cliche, but it was a cool introduction to this teacher. I did warm up to her. Yeah, take it away.
it was cliched, but really enjoyed like Dr. Cairo is like super cool. I can't wait to see more of her in the future. If there's no Inferno Girl Red follow up, I will be pissed. I will be holding up signs and protesting. But I like what they do with the placebo effect, because the way we talk about it and how there's no, she didn't really have like a gotcha answer, right? Like someone saying, oh, there's no reason for it. It kind of showcased how Cassia will reach out. Cassia's cool because she isn't like, she doesn't have, it kind of reminds me of like Shuri's place in Black Panther 2, right? Where she doesn't exactly have like a bunch of like belief in like, religion or like a bunch of things. It's like it's she's really smart, and it's like she believes more in what can be proved and written, and belief and the placebo effect. It could almost be like belief. You say the words, it opens your mind up for it happening. So, I'm kind of like a word shotgun again here, but it wouldn't be me if I wasn't. But I like the placebo effect, and it showed how every student kind of addressed it. How you had Mr. Park's kid, I forget his name, and it's Harriet, and just how people just deal with the situation and the effect of the placebo effect. Like just saying the word placebo, it's kind of interesting the effect it has in a conversation. This little sugary pill, but you think of a
Yeah,
power beyond what's reachable. Anyway,
yeah. No, that's great. And speaking of Thomas Park, actually, I think the biggest bummer was when we saw him briefly, and then he kind of just never showed up again. But of course, there's a lot of like setup, right? Like you mentioned a little bit earlier. Like if we don't get a follow up to this, obviously there'll be riots. But I think it's safe to say we will. Matt already kind of spoiled
Yeah, I
that
sure
a
hope
little
so.
bit. Yeah, he did say they were storyboarding it already, so I'm hoping that'll progress. But what did you guys think of this big twist in the first issue? Like obviously afterwards we meet Harriet, and we'll talk more about Harriet later because she comes into play a lot, and she's a really really cool character. I love her design. I love that they gave a warm friend character to Cassia, because we got Marshall and Nathan, but they're more like Dante and Randall, where they're playful. But here we've got like a warm, supportive friendship, and it's nice to see that change in dynamic. But we do get this twist where we get this kind of sorcerer guy who shows up with a staff and initiates some sort of ritual, or not, maybe not a ritual, but some sort of activity where this being basically sucks the entire city of Apex out of that existence into some other point in space. What did you guys think about this twist? Because I freaked out. I literally, my jaw was on the floor.
I felt like it was a nice kind of like, what's the word? Not contradiction, but like kind of difference to how it started off very scientific and science based, evidence based, and then all of a sudden we have this guy who's doing like magic, right? So it kind of gives the impression of magic versus science, and then it goes back to belief, because you gotta believe in the magic for it to work. I guess I'm not too sure, but it's a good intro, I guess, to the villain or the main conflict of the story.
Yeah, yeah, and even though like even though we saw this earlier and kind of saw the city floating and saw the whole concept of that, like just seeing this in action, like literally being like sliced out of the earth, and the way the colors play, like with the like just all like the neon lights and everything, literally just sucking this thing out, gave me some Brainiac vibes in a way. Like it was kind of like it's like just world collecting and all that, but this was just awesome, and it really gave me vibes like later on, Cassia, like she says a line, this is a light show, like some kind of performance art, like that's kind of like what this whole book was. So yeah, it was just a treat.
Yeah, and also like the staff in the ground remind me of the lamppost from like C.S. Lewis, like the Narnia, the classic imagery of like just like the in like another world, and it's taking them to another world or space beyond anything that we know. And I like how there's a lot you can do with that theme of like people that even in a perfect society, there or a society that seems to do much better than our modern one or the one we know today. There are people that would feel left behind and then be like, yeah, everything's great, but like they have failings in other areas, and that might lead them to be persuaded by dark demigods or whatever we have going on with this force of entropy, and that could sway you to that. So either way, and how do you deal with this problem? How do you deal with people that feel left out and disenfranchised, or find a way to that everyone can coexist without a bumper sticker that's with all the symbols on it?
Yeah, and that's a good point, because as we see, they that's their immediate priority. Of course, the city has an impressive response time in terms of getting the word out there, and as we've seen, like Apex is high tech and progressive, so we shouldn't be too surprised that they have some sort of like public service announcement running quickly. But one thing I did find intriguing was, obviously Charlie mentioned this, the light show. We go from a book with many hues, many colors, and this doesn't really stop here. It doesn't change, even though we get sucked out to the middle of space. Igor Monti still manages to create so many inject so much so many hues, into the page. And you see that with like the green hues that show up as the shield that blockades them in the wherever the hell in the middle of space they are. You can see a lot of greens, and it's really beautiful. It's a nice contrast to the earlier reds and oranges we were seeing during the day. But one thing that was really cool to me, and this stuck out the first issue because we're still early on in the narrative, and we're still not like too sure what the hell's going on, but in the midst of all the chaos, Anna approaches Cassia and tells her, "Okay, look, like you got to go take care of this shit. Like I believe in you." And she tells her how to do the initiation for the device. She shows her the hand gesture, and so I like that Cass is just like freaking out here. She doesn't know what the hell's going on, but she's immediately thrust into it. What did you guys think of this whole situation right now, seeing that creature for the first time?
Now, I know we're kind of like going all around this, so this like this moment especially like put it really into question for me. But like when Cassia's mom when Anna first actually sees like the bracelet, and she is shocked that like Cassia does get it, and like there's a lot, like even Harriet mentions earlier about like fate, like there's no chance, like it's all fate and whatnot, or even just like even just on purpose, but I just found it interesting, like knowing Anna's relationship with the teacher, as like we find out later. Like, do you think Anna knew that Cassia was gonna get these powers the whole time, and like she like could have just brought her to this school and knew it, because like she obviously knew the relationship, who had it, and all that. So I just thought like this whole dynamic was super interesting.
That's that's an interesting take because I didn't think of it from that perspective, but I do think that that must have been a possibility in her mind that if she takes her to Apex City, like Dr. Caro would be looking for a replacement or somebody. And I mean, if she knows Cassia, and Cassia definitely fits the bill of someone who, I mean, you would love to be a superhero. Think quick on her feet, smart, good heart, all the qualities that you need. So I do think that's an interesting way of looking at it. I don't know if that's what was intended, but I do think that Anna, the character, I mean, it might have been something in her mind.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I hadn't considered that myself, but I'm curious to see what others say, like both online and here.
Could that like, and that also brings into question, like we know like how much these powers like are powered on belief and whatnot, but like could this whole placebo conversation at the beginning, like with all these children, been like a decision on kind of who got these powers and kind of who had the best answer to that question, kind of thing.
Interesting.
At that point, I kind of hope not. Maybe that one's more manifestation. Maybe it's like a fate thing, kind of manifesting as a result of that.
I think so. I think Cassia, yeah, was always gonna get it, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think, yeah, for sure.
But this first page, though, this first page of her igniting Inferno Ignite, yelling Inferno Ignite, and just turning into Inferno Girl Red, you get this glorious text. Of course, it's an incredible page by everyone involved. Erica Durso, Igor Monti, you guys are killing it. But it says the burning light of hope in the dark, Inferno Girl Red. What did you guys think? I loved this first transformation.
Does it do that in the individual issues? Like the tech, I know it does later on, but when she first
Yeah.
gets it, okay,
Yeah.
okay, no, I really love that touch when I think that really makes it stand out. Just like the writing is really good, and obviously the art, and both are firing on all cylinders. So I really like this focus on these characters when we get these like big bads going forward.
I think it kind of goes back to what Charlie was saying earlier with the anime vibe or the manga vibe. Like these two pages, her transforming, and then the tagline at the top. It's definitely giving me super anime vibes, and it was an awesome first intro into Cassia finally transforming.
I forgot she could fly, and then I saw the dragon wings, and I was like, "Oh my god!" You know, like it was.
She wasn't called Dragon Girl Red for nothing.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But I just love the wings. Like it reminded me so much of when I was reading Venom by Donny Cates for the first time, and there's that issue where Eddie gets those powers from the Codex, and he grows the wings, and it's like something you don't expect to happen, but it's so cool when it does happen, and that's kind of how I felt here. I love.
She's got the pumped up kicks too. Like the shoes are super cool. Like Miles would be
Oh
jealous.
yeah. That's like a theme now. I don't know who kickstarted that theme, but like no one has some really badass shoes. There's like a new character they just introduced in Spider-Man. Spider-Boy has some really badass shoes. Like it's like a thing now for superheroes.
And they're always
firepower,
red,
right?
They're always
we
red.
got the whole theme. Yeah, they're always red, and we got firepower. Yeah. We got like all the shoes and firepower. Like that's a big theme running. So it's like it's become a thing. It's become a culture. I like that, especially with the Air movie right around the corner. Ben Affleck's like, "Fuck yeah, free advertising for me." But
I like I like the onlookers there, how they're like watching and like, what is this at first, and then they're like super pumped in the next panel. It's almost an identical panel, but you just see them get like a little more excited. Like, woo! It's like yeah, they're instantly in like yeah, and like it's something you see in a lot of superhero stuff, but like you love to see it when it's not overdone. And no, it's just great. What do you think is cooler, the Dragon Blast that we saw earlier, or the Blackfire?
Ooh, you're asking tough questions.
Honestly, for me, I would say it's the Dragon Blast because like it just like the panel goes absolutely berserk when it happens. The fire, the fire, the black fire is dope, but the Dragon Blast is just it's too cosmic for me. I don't know. It struck me more personally.
Yeah, I think Igor has to do a lot with it too. He makes it look so awesome.
100%.
It's like a Liu Kang fatality or whatever with the animality when it gets the dragon. That's what it looks like. It's fucking sick. So yeah, it's embarrassment of riches when Blackfire isn't the answer to like what's the coolest power in something. So yeah, super sweet, and I can't wait to see what else they do with it.
Yeah.
But it's also credit to them for giving each character power. It's like Street Fighter, where the certain characters
Yeah.
have their like
Hadouken.
Hadoukens, right? Their Shoryukens or whatever the hell they call them.
Mhm.
And so it's like to see like them do that for these guys. And then if you've been reading Radiant Pink, like we did get a big revelation in the latest issue that I think will later give her some sort of boost in her power set. That's all I'll say. So anyway,
Is
back to the
Cassia
story.
Does that mean
Is
Cassia's a
Cassia what?
Cassia's a Shoto? It's like a protagonist that shoots fireballs and
Oh,
stuff. Like Ryu's a Shoto. I think Mario. There's a
Oh.
debate of Mario's a Shoto. It's ridiculous. But yeah,
hey,
answer.
perhaps. That's actually a good question.
Anyways, yeah, let's get back into it.
Yeah, we need. All I know is we need our fighting game where we have all the Massiverse characters as teased by the covers, the pixelated covers, because that would be a dream come true. But that's the end of the first issue. If you're reading the single issues, we end the first issue with Inferno Girl Red recovering as she falls down from her first encounter. Anna runs to her and is proud of her for her incredible start, but that's where Cassia just freaks out and says, "No, you need to help me figure out how to get this bracelet removed, and so this never happens again." So it seems like she's kind of a little bit traumatized by the whole experience. We'll see. Let's go and continue now with book 1, part 2 of 3. So for those of you who are reading it that way. So yeah, it's interesting that the next day, it picks up immediately, obviously, because as we said, this was meant to be one story, and they've gone to the cafe because even though they have no idea whether the city's still operating, they want to get some grub because Anna wants to just make Cassia feel a little bit better. But I do like this intimate conversation between the two of them. I think it's like Peter has his he obviously has the Uncle Ben moment, but then he has Aunt May to be there to motivate him, kind of, even when she doesn't know he's Spider-Man. She gives him those speeches sometimes. And I think here it's a different kind of refreshing because you have Anna who's like, not only do I know that you're Inferno Girl Red, but I'm relatively familiar with the previous Inferno Girl Red, so I could actually be useful. I like that kind of like weaving her into the story.
Yeah, I think Anna's might be the best parent in the Massiverse. I mean, Mr. Burnett, I think, has been knocked off his pedestal. You haven't seen a ton of him lately, but like Anna's an amazing parent. From the like, she says all the right stuff. Like she just every time she has like the perfect words, even when she's like fading off into the ether later on. Like she's great. And I do also love that on the board there on the blackboard they have Erica's Choice, the cinnamon soy latte, which I presume is probably your favorite drink, right? I assume that's meant to be a reference to Erica Durso. And then Ryan's blueberry match latte, I assume, is Ryan Parrott, right? I'm just assuming that these are the Massiverse people. You know what they say about assuming. And also says Kyle on the board too, so it could be our second Kyle Higgins reference so far.
That's really cool. I didn't notice that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good catch.
Yeah. I so yeah, this whole conversation, I gotta say, it is inspiring. I did like this whole dynamic. I like seeing her mom be involved. It's like almost like a continuity thing for her mom in that sense, because she was in a small sense helping the previous Inferno Girl Red, and here she is helping the new Inferno Girl Red. So that's really cool. I do like to see these. I do like that we've gone back to the campus afterwards, because I'm really a big fan of Harriet, her friend that she met in the first issue, or I guess if you're reading the whole thing, that she met earlier. Such a great character. I really like Harriet a lot, because I feel like sometimes you need someone who's just like a good friend like Harriet, and I think Cassia in this story, given all the shit she goes through, I'm glad that she has a Harriet.
We all need a Harry in our lives, and it's lucky that Kasha has one. It's like she's great, and I like the way she's written. Like you can tell, like there was mentioned earlier on there, like people she's used to dealing with people that think her beliefs are like ridiculous, right? And it's like she's not like mean about it. She just kind of knows how to like weave through that world, because there's a lot of like buzzwords out there, or like certain words that will like completely change the way someone views you and thinks you're like a nut, for lack of a better term, with certain things with regards to faith and belief. So I think that she's also dealt with a lot of naysayers, so she's happy to have someone that's just like a conversation, and that she can kind of like nurture, but also maybe challenge her ideas, and they can challenge each other.
Yeah, I agree. Harriet, yeah, I think you put it perfectly there. So, as they have their bonding moment, and the people have mentioned like there may be potentially hints of a romance. I felt it's very ambiguous, and I'm glad they did it that way, because I think it adds tension to the story. But also, you never know. Maybe there's another character who.
Yeah,
But
I could see it happening for sure.
yeah, I feel like it could go either way. They could just stay friends, or they could be a romantic couple. It really could go either way.
I feel like Thomas is is the romantic interest for Cassia. If I had to, I think that's
Yeah.
what they're intending, right? And I kind of like their little like talk. I kind of like it where, but next is gonna be like, oh, your dad kind of sent my mom to the Shadow Realm, so that's probably over.
The new rival, the new Gary Thomas.
Yeah, so who knows? But yeah, I do think there could be a future romance between the two of them if they both are attracted to each other. But I do think that it's important to have a really good friend, and female friendships you can be a little bit more intimate and kind of like cuddle and do stuff like that, and it can be more platonic. But yeah, I think that's if they go in that direction in the future, I think it would be interesting because Harriet's the best.
Yeah, and this page of her igniting again and leaving the campus is just the artist just showing off. Like, look at how good, look at how dynamic and beautiful that page is. You could even see the reflection off her helmet. It's incredible, truly incredible stuff. And I like to see that she's starting to come around to the powers, right? So, and this also this image of her flying through the Apex City, but the enclosed Apex City in space. You can see certain buildings. A lot of them have trees growing out of them. You've got here a city that says a building that says community garden food for free for everyone. So this is a very progressive city. It's almost like, yeah, like utopia, like you guys said before. So it's really cool to
I mean,
see that.
it definitely says something that the city's on lockdown, lifted from the earth, and no one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. But everybody's still living their lives. The coffee shop is open, school's going on. There's no like if this happened in real life, there's probably be like looting in the streets and in the
Mhm.
shops.
Oh yeah,
People wouldn't feel safe. But it looks like everybody's just like, oh, we'll be all right. We'll figure
and
something out.
people trust their government. They believe that they'll protect them and stuff like
Yep,
that, which
yep,
is the
yep.
sign of success. But yeah, and them doing a good job. I do like that idea of like they help the community and stuff like that. The green on the buildings, like I love the idea of fusion of technology and nature. They don't have to be mutually exclusive, which is always a really interesting route to take.
Yeah, and that goes with the theme of fusing belief and science in
Hmm.
some ways, which they are kind of doing in this book. So yeah, that's a good point. I do love these dynamic pages because obviously she's flying through the city, and that's when Anna tells her that she's trailed a few of the critter things that she has to deal with. So she does that. I like that she's just like experimenting with her powers basically, and that's not unfamiliar territory for our Massiverse heroes, right? They like to mess around, and that understandably so. I mean, that's pretty cool. So we get these incredible dynamic action pages. We do get Anna making a very brave and stupid rescue at one point. So, like I said, I really do like her involvement in this book. I like how she refuses to be kept on the sidelines. She's a part of everything that Cassia does, even if Cassia's flying around and Anna can't. She'll find a way to eventually get up. This is a fucking amazing race for Anna.
Yeah, yeah. She's not shy of getting herself into trouble. Like literally launching herself off like a 2-story or like no, like a 1-story. Literally like stairs, like a bunch of stairs. Literally just like hucks herself over in her car, like the nice Kyle Higgins license plate there.
It's actually the Kyle Higgis mobile.
The
If
Kyle
you look
Higgis
close.
mobile, yeah. No, I like that. The license plate. They were consistent with that the whole issue. So I did like that. But yeah, she there was a few times. Yeah, I was questioning her sanity or her. Like I was like, what is she doing? Like she just had like no question for everything. A couple times, and like she just like puts herself in trouble with the we'll see the Griffin later, and just like has no worries about that. Is just hoping Inferno Girl Red comes and saves her. But yeah, no, it does work. It does work. Not so much later, but we'll talk about that.
It shows you that bravery runs deep in the family, my friend. This is a
I
genetic
guess.
component.
Yeah. I guess so. Fair
Not
enough.
even that.
Fair
Just
enough.
without her father's not there, right? He kind of like left them, which we found out later. But like that bond of like a mother and child or father and child, when it's
Mhm.
like just you're their world, right? Like
Yeah.
we don't know if she even really dated after the other guy, right? Her focus could have just been Cassia and putting Cassia, first. That's what a lot of parents do, a lot of the best ones. And I thought that she was a little overzealous jumping into this, but also I don't have kids, and I know that you're it's like that's your everything. Imagine creating a being, raising that creature that's part you and part someone that you love, and they're just like they have all this power, and it's a crazy time in their life. Yeah, you would. I can't say I wouldn't be. You'd be sacrificing yourself if you really
Yeah.
cared about it.
I mean, Anna's probably on full adrenaline. She's probably like, I mean, if she dies, she has the Inferno Girl Red bracelet. We're all screwed at that point. So she's like, I might as well just be her insurance. but I do agree. It just shows, and what you said earlier, but it shows how she's like, yeah, she might be the single parent right now, the only parent, but she's a super badass parent too. She's not only a great parent in the sense of being being a good mentor and a good steward for Anna, but also a protector, like literally throwing her neck, her car, everything on the line to buy her a few seconds.
She was like Eddie in last issue. She didn't have the same
Yep.
fate, but it gave me the same vibe there. Like it wasn't like complete. It was actually it was more necessary at this moment watching.
And she's a good journalist, unlike
That's a
Max
great
Sands.
comparison, though.
Oh
Yeah.
God, don't bring it
No,
up. Man.
Oh
no
my
shade
God.
at Max Sands. But you were used to those environments. Like a lot of journalists, you risk your neck out there reporting on war zones or dangerous situations. So I think that her threshold for adrenaline and dealing with situations and confronting danger, I think that she can deal with a lot more than your average person.
One thing I did notice going through this again, a point that kind of slipped through my mind the first time is so that they've disconnected from Earth and their city has generated enough energy for like they said 2 or a couple months to live. So I guess like they have a couple months here, but so I'm curious if they're gonna have to try to be able to sustain by themselves or try to find a way to teleport themselves back or something like that. So yeah,
No, it's okay. Eva's gonna come and get everybody out.
there we go. Teleport the whole freaking city.
That's
Yeah,
reverse
there we go.
mechanics right there. Now you're getting creative.
Love it.
Oh my God, that's actually genius. Like I watch a lot of Stargate and they do shit like that all the time where they send shit through the Stargate to other planets and I'm just like, oh, Radiant Pink is a moving fucking Stargate. But I just want to say this first page where we get introduced to the Griffin, I got such like ominous, sinister vibes from him. I thought this was such an incredibly well done page. We obviously knew that these abominations had to be coming from somewhere, so not just like raining down from space or anything. So it's interesting to see the Griffin, but I also got the sense immediately when he pulls out that like hand. I mean, that's the best that it looks to
Gauntlet,
me. Hand,
yeah.
gauntlet, yeah. Is it a gauntlet? Is it a hand? Like, is it a severed hand or is it a gauntlet?
I
think it's a gauntlet.
Yeah, because he's got 2 hands there. He's not missing.
I guess.
A hand, right?
Okay.
So yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay, the hand gauntlet, right? So
Yeah, okay,
the glowing hand gauntlet, which looks like radioactive or something. I thought that was really badass. But that's another like artifact. Each of our Massiverse stories has their own respective artifacts, and of course, Dead Lucky being one that's more grounded in realism and science. The artifacts being things like robots or the Marotech. But here at Radiant Black, of course, we have the Radiance and all the lore associated with that. We have Existence. And in Rogue Sun, we have tons of things. We've got the key, the chalice that they're competing for, right? We have all these cool lore things. So it's cool to see Inferno Girl Red add to that corner of the Massiverse with their lore. We've got this gauntlet hand thing. We've got the Griffin, who you'll see has a very particular look. We've got these abominations. And then we've got a little teaser of Entropy, right? Which we'll talk about more later.
Yeah, I feel like this room must be like beneath like a hot topic or something like that, and they're just draining all the angst and entropy, and then they're just powering up all the stuff. Also, it looks like the kind of like it looks like almost like Palpatine return tanks kind of deal there, almost every little clone tanks and all that stuff. But yeah, no, I do like it the way that they introduced the character, and then we get Mr. Park right after, right? So I thought that was kind of cool to see him, and then quickly like, oh no, this is him, and he's in an educational setting. He's teaching your kids. This guy who is the reason you're screwed right now. It's kind of scary that this is what's teaching, and he's suave and he's a bastard, and even his kids like will just say that he wants power and stuff in class.
And then his first lesson is to give them all potential disaster stemming from the city's current situation, and they're trying to address how they would deal with it. It's like this guy is literally over the top as hell.
But then anyone trying to stop is like, oh, good. I'll know how to stop anyone that might try to stop it. Now it's like, oh, good solution. Too good. I'll make sure to cut the power to that.
Yeah,
Explain both sides.
And that's where we get Thomas. And I'm really curious. Like, this is why I was a bit critical earlier of not getting more Thomas, because I kind of took to his character right away. I was very interested with where he is in this entire web of intricate like storytelling, because like you said, we've set up his father just before this, and Spoiler alert, his father is the Griffin, because we're reviewing the whole thing. I hope it's clear that this is a spoiler review. So his father is the Griffin, and knowing that we all got the feeling. I'm pretty sure I got the feeling. I'm pretty sure others got the feeling that he was the Griffin. So it's like you go into it with that suspicion. I'm really curious to see how Thomas's role in all this is going to unfold. Is he the unwitting like son? Is he the son who actually knows and is indifferent? I don't know, but I'm curious to see what his story is going to be like once we get more Inferno Girl Red, because I did enjoy, like Matt said, this was a really fun encounter here between him and Cassia, and I really did enjoy that. And I think they have a fun dynamic, whether they become just friends or relationship. I don't care. I think they have an interesting dynamic. I want to see more of them.
This is almost heartbreaking though. Like I love it how she shows attention to him and stuff like that, and they're bonding, and he's like, yeah, sometimes I just wish, and then you get the text that you got to do Inferno Girl Red stuff, so you got to leave. So obviously, I not obviously, but it looks to me like Thomas has been neglected a lot by his father. We don't know what his mom's doing. Maybe there's like more like um, people in the house, like a nanny or someone that's supposed to raise him. People pay them to basically be around Thomas. I don't know for sure, but that usually happens in wealthy homes and stuff like that. And I get a feeling that his dad's a very hardworking guy, maybe not always home. So when someone does show you a little bit of attention, you want to open up, and she leaves, and you're like, fine, I'll just lean above this tree. At least this tree won't leave me. And then winter comes and it falls. I don't know. No, but I really liked it. We got like 2 pages of him basically, or 3 pages, and I'm interested in this dynamic, and I want to see it play out.
Yeah, and yeah, and from his perspective, it could just seem like she's just another bratty teenager who only like just wants to do shit on their phone and doesn't care. So I totally get that. It must feel even worse for him, just after, like you said, just having a positive experience with someone who could potentially be a friend. But in the next page after that, you get a really cool, badass introduction with a stunning page to first appearance of Griffin, in full armor. Really cool design. Really like, they're really Power Rangersy in certain respects, and that's no surprise given Massiverse, one of the biggest influences, Tokusatsu in general, Power Rangers, all that good stuff, Kamen Rider. Well, what did you guys think of the Griffin? How he looks?
He looks awesome. I think it's a nice foil to Inferno Girl Red too. He has that like little hair coming out and his cape, but he's all super dark colors. He gives me like, he has kind of like a knight look, like a medieval knight too, which
Yeah.
I like, but it's kind of cool. It's different than Inferno Girl Red.
Yeah, no, it is fantastic look. Like just sold me right away, and just kind of just immediately made me love this book even more. Like obviously, if you love the design of the hero and the villain, it helps that much more. But just knocked it out of the park of these designs, and obviously love seeing that at the end, like of the hardcover, like the little extras, like just going through like the details of how they design these things. And like the Inferno Girl Red suit in particular was just incredible. But yeah, this first encounter was really cool, and just to see kind of the details of the plan kind of unfoiling here, kind of what they're trying to do with Apex City, and kind of send it out for a collector, I guess their boss, who we don't really get named of yet. But or is it Entropy? It's like the eternal
Entropy,
void.
yeah, it is Entropy.
Yeah, it's the eternal void. So yeah, that's pretty big stuff.
Yeah, I like Typhoon Boy Blue. No, it's not like overdone. Its lack of colors is gray. It's just the grays and the dark, kind of like blacks and blues. I think it's cool, and it kind of reminds the cowl almost has like the Batman little ears and stuff like that. But no, I think it's really cool, and it does look like it's almost like Genji or something. It does have like Japanese influence, and it's cool. And I got to fight the urge not to call him Gray Griffin all the time, although the gray wouldn't take away from the entropy and nothing really mattering. But I dig it.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you guys said. There's a lot of influences, definitely some. It has a little bit like looking like Japanese Genji for sure. Love the overall design. I like this whole encounter. It just kept me on the edge of my seat. I was anticipating this battle for a long time, and given the narrative structure of the book and given how these stories usually go, I knew Inferno Girl Red was going to get her ass handed to her. But it was nice to see her attempt to do the Dragon Blast for the first time. It did remind me of Dylan's first attempt at the Blackfire, where
Yeah.
You know, he just botched it. I love his response to it. It's just like get shit on, just straight up.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that
It's just like he was like, "Get the fuck out of here, kid!" Like you know, like none of that child's play. I mean, it's brutal in terms of obviously Cassia. I warmed up to her a lot. I really loved this story, and we'll get more into that towards the end. But this was hard to watch because I knew she was gonna get her ass beat. Like, there's no way she's gonna just look at that introduction. Fucking Griffin, emissary of the eternal void. Like, what are you gonna do? A man's walking around basically skipping with that gauntlet in his hand, and it's literally radiating some weird cosmic energy. This full on like fuck you up stuff, you know, right? Like, so that panel with her being held by him by the throat, that's just some Darth Vader shit. You know what I mean? So this was brutal. This was, in some senses, anticipated. But what I will say is, throwback to what Charlie said earlier, we've got Ana Costa, the real superhero, the real Inferno. He just pops out of nowhere.
Really, like what do you think she's gonna do here? What is that? A little stick?
Maybe trade a life for a life.
No, it's a cable. It's a cable. It's a metal cable.
Yeah, it's like a big metal rod. But what I do like about that moment is that I do like that I like two things. I like that it's pure impulse and desperation, but on two different ends of the spectrum. On the one end, you have the rational adult, the learned person compared to the youngster, the one with, of course, more experience, who is making this balls to the wall decision to just leap in there against a cosmic powered being who is literally shooting energy blasts out of their gauntlets and is about to kill their daughter. So it's pure desperation, pure survival instinct. And then on the other hand, you have the exact same thing, but from the other end of the spectrum, where you have this child who is a teenager who's thinking purely impulsively. There's no thought. This is pure just reaction, impulse of
no time for needs of the many. We got to get the hell. I'm saving my mom right now. It's
freaking out and like, let's just get out of here. Like I can't react to this. I can't fight this. Let's just dip. This is like when you're playing Pokemon, you got to run. It's like run away. You know what I mean? Of course, I'm joking about the comparison, but this is scary, of course, right? Like you have on the one end a pure survival instinct, but from the I need to protect my offspring, and then on the other, my daughter, my loved one. You have it's the same thing. I need to protect my mom, my family, but it's impulse. It's pure impulse. It's because she knows at that point, I think on both of the conscious and subconscious level, that she has no chance against the Griffin right now.
Yeah, I and like afterwards, the scene afterwards, she's like, "We have to go back. This is the only chance. You can't let him." And then she takes the helmet off, and you see Cassia is just
symbolically. There's no belief. The dragon blast failing was symbolic of her lacking belief in that moment.
Yeah, true. And then she's just starting out. Even if you believe it, it's hard to cast spells in Harry Potter the first time. Swish and flick, and you don't even know what you're doing. You're Hermione Granger, so it's to list the nerdier franchise and the one that you mentioned, you joked about. But anyways, not shitting on either. I love both. But yeah, Cassia's face, right? You see it, like the way Erica drew that. You feel that. It's like it's so much. It's like, I let you down. I failed. I couldn't do what had to be done. And she's happy she saved her, but it's like, geez, I could have lost my mom right there. There's so much baked into that. And then, Anna ever trying to be the parent and doing the right things, like, sorry, baby. Like she's saying that you did well and stuff like that, even though she didn't get the job done. It's like she still did a hell of a job fighting this guy who's trained all her life, as opposed to this Cass just had this dumped on her when she was ready to go to college, not literally fist fight, for life, fist fight and learn how to believe that you can shoot beams. It sounds nuts, but in the context of the story, it just works so well, and it's just one. I think this is like peak Massiverse stuff.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, and this kind of showed me too, like it really reminded me of like when like anytime like a Green Lantern just like loses their will or like gets overcome by fear or whatnot, doesn't get the ring, but just loses their power, and kind of just like this really just kind of shined out to me that like their belief is really like much like a Green Lantern's like will, like powers their powers. So I kind of, I really like that.
Yeah, and we see that even despite her best intentions, as we progress through this issue, through this part of the story, that like as more and more attacks begin to occur throughout the city, despite Anna's best intentions, her actually showing up repeatedly to help is a liability, because we see the Griffin at one point almost, I can't tell if this attack is staged, but I would like to think that he's clever enough to have staged that attack to where we see Anna like waiting off in the distance, because she tried to intervene earlier, but Cassia was having none of it, because she was like, look, like it's hard enough doing the superheroing stuff. I can't have you be, caught in the middle. Just please stay out of it and watch. And that's where she goes back, and she's just like, nope, Anna's gone. She's captured by the Griffin. So that's where we conclude book 2 of 3, book 1, part 2 of 3, or that part of the story if you're reading the whole thing. And we're moving on to book 3. But yeah, what did you guys think of that part of the story? Like, I feel like the whole us constantly seeing Anna like intervene was basically them foreshadowing that was going to happen.
No, of course, and we mentioned that it was stupid. It was brave, but it was stupid.
Yep.
She might have experience dealing with an Inferno Girl Red and the Cabal and Entropy and whatever, but she's definitely not on the same level to be like doing this kind of stuff. But now,
and like you guys said, Eddie died, right? Like Eddie died,
and it could easily be her.
Yeah, she definitely got a little more lucky, but even still, like, and I'm surprised, like, even helping out the last Infernal Girl Red, like, she has experience doing this, but you see Cassia fighting this big monster, and she just comes in, like, literally as just like a distraction for her, and like all she's thinking about is, hey mom, like get out of here, and she's just like getting the crap kicked out of her all over the place because that's all she's thinking about. But I did really like the moment where she grabbed the big cable and just like put a bunch of like electricity into it and power into it, and just beat the crap out of that big monster. That was a really cool moment.
And like she goes and she freaks out about the whole situation to Harriet, and we see that Harriet didn't just she knew already about Cassia being Inferno Girl Red, and I think that adds to everything we've already said about
because she's an
Harriet
empath.
being a
She
good
just
friend.
sensed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she saw her, right? She saw her at that one point.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But like I think that adds to what we said earlier about her being a good friend. Like she's a good person to the point where like it didn't really make a difference. It didn't change how she felt about Cassia as a person. It didn't really. She waited
till she was comfortable to tell her, which is like the ultimate pro friend move. Like that's like, what is she running for Jesus? Like that's like.
And she didn't use that information, right? Most people would use that to blackmail or to get some sort of leverage on someone or get some sort of outcome that's favorable. But no, she was just a good friend, and that's really nice to see. But
we're talking about.
Sorry, go ahead. No,
this is unrelated, but if we're talking about belief here, before we started podcasting, I was a couple minutes late because my computer started updating, and the touchpad on my laptop got fixed by an update. It hasn't worked for like a month and a half, and now it works, and I can mute silently. So, a little bit of belief, a little bit of technology, and we got yourself in front, and I got myself muted. So
there you go. The spirit of Inferno Girl Red runs deep.
Exactly.
And I want to say Harriet's such a good friend that she actually offers to help Anna with her situation by. They talk about the power grid, and if the Gurvinkai is trying to teleport things in and out of the city, they must be using a lot of power. So why don't we go look at the power grid? Because I have a friend who, Lillian, who actually is in charge of that. And that's where they go to Lillian, and they have the discussion. And she tells her where the source of the power source is, and it's actually from Park Industries, which, gives it all away. It gives it away that the fact that it's obviously Dr. Park, who is the Griffin. And it also begs the question, what is Thomas Park's involvement in all this? Because as we see, Cassia is determined to of course, save the day. And we get this iconic, in my opinion, page of her just looking out into Apex City. And this page is important for me because it reflects what we've talked about. It reflects, I think this is the moment of her not only believing, but accepting. And I think that takes the belief to the full potential, at least in that specific moment, because we see that the look in her eye, change as she's accepted, as she's had that revelation, and she understands now what's truly at risk, what she has to do, and she ignites, and
she's got the eye of the dragon. And she's rising up to the challenge of her rivals now. Like, legit, she's ready to go. And that page, like, her looking at the city, her changing her mind, you're right, this is an iconic page. And then the Inferno Girl Ignite, like, the lighting in this, like, the fabric on her clothes looks freaking amazing. The lighting on it, like, everyone is just firing on all their cylinders. It's like we did Dragon Blast with art. With everyone just believed in it. Like, look at it. Look at the lighting. I can't do it justice. In thousands of words I couldn't. But it's one of the best looking books I've read. I think, like, whatever year you can put out you can say this book released, whether it was 2022 or the actual release now, I think it's one of the best looking books of that year. Like, it's amazing.
I think it might be the best looking book I've ever read. I can easily say that, and that's a big reason of why I can read this book 3 times and still feel fresh and like enjoy reading it for the third time.
Well said.
I definitely think it's one of the best looking books I read. Definitely in the last year, like 100%. It's a work of beauty. That's why I told you guys like after reading this and connecting with Cassian and the character, I had to like get a page, which I did. I got the first page where you can see Cassia without her helmet. So I'm proud of that, Matt. If you're listening, Matt Groom, I told you I was gonna get a page. I told you. So yeah, we go to the page where we're getting the showdown. You get another incredible page where Cassia crashes through where Inferno Girl Red now crashes through Park Industries to face Dr. Park 1v1, and that's where he has his big teleport moment page, which is equally as badass as Inferno Girl Red. I mean, come on, guys, look at those colors. You got like purple hues in the hair with bits of orange and red, almost flame-like. You've got incredible purples, light blues, teals. Like it's just a mixture of all these different shades of blue and purple, but it looks fantastic. So Relentless Emissary of the Eternal Void. Holy shit. Fantastic stuff. I love the panel layout on these pages because it really gives you like a Street Fighter-esque setup for like a big fight that's about to happen. And then that's where we kick off and we get the big fight. What did you guys think of this fight? I knew immediately just before it even began. I was like, Igor is gonna do some shit, and he does some crazy shit in the next few pages. He goes crazy. He turns it up to 11. He takes you to existence in Inferno Girl Red.
Those iconic like Igor yellows and reds that he just like it takes you out. It's like almost like the X-ray moves in Mortal Kombat. You're like, ooh, it really shows the impact of a crazy near fatal blow with sometimes fatal. It's
Yeah.
hard to tell until the next page because there's so much. It's so dynamic.
Yeah, that shot of him just crouching over her, like after that shot you were just mentioning, was just like he just looks so vicious, and he's so like, yeah, he's he's just a very, very scary villain, and just like the design, it gets me every time. Like the ears definitely gives me a little bit of even like Batman vibes, but he's got like the beak at the front, so it's just, yeah, it's incredible. And this whole fight, really up until she gets her watch snapped, or whatever you call it, was just awesome. And that page, kind of her losing hope again, and then regaining it, really just summed up this book in a perfect way, kind of right at the end.
Yeah, I think she stopped overthinking what her mom's been trying to tell her the whole time and finally just like interpreted it. And she was like, "Oh, belief is magic. Well, watch this." And she turns into like this would be like the Pokemon evolving moment, right? Like she literally
That's her
evolves.
Charizard right there.
Yeah, literally, like just full flames, and you could see like it's a tiny little detail, but if you look at the page where it says "Belief incinerates the conceivable," Inferno Girl Red blazing, you could see the dragon's head on the left
Yep.
side of her shoulder. So it's like the dragon's like come to life. You know what I mean? It's a really
almost
nice
like
detail.
she
Yeah.
finished a really high level raid or something and got some new shoulder pauldrons. That's freaking
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah,
Also,
like gear is next level blazing, literally.
This is like her cape mode, right?
yeah.
I would.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I would buy this page if this
Yes,
wasn't
yes.
digital. Like I would.
got
I would
tatted.
message Erica all day. I'd be like, Erica, let me buy this page from you.
Also, just before Igor's colors, when she says, when Kasha says "Inferno Girl Ignite," she like smiles in the face of like what would be death if she had no belief of these last couple of days. Like that's just, you're smiling at your demise right there. And then like the colors as the bracelet like like I don't know, it's still cracked but like comes back together, and then the blast. It's just amazing lettering. It's just like the colors. You're just like, what am I even looking at? I just know it's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll be looking at it for years.
Dude, that page is one of the best pages I've ever seen. Like ever reading a comic book. I swear to God, I'm not saying that lightly. Like I've seen some crazy pages in my time, but that page literally, like I was on that page for a long time staring at it, like a long time.
I'll be showing my grandkids this on their way to Apex City. Like it's legit. Like it's inspiring. Like I want to say this. Like when I first read the book, it's fucking inspiring. Like belief. I grew up in like a pretty agnostic household. My mom was like a psychologist. I learned like about like behavior and all this kind of like scientific ways to explain shit. But there's that secret sauce in life that really pushes you forward and keeps you there. And like belief in yourself and the mixture. I think there's a balance of both. You don't have to wait for a pendulum to swing. You can kind of be like the Grey Jedi. You can there's ideologies and stuff like that you can mix in, and you can kind of like make a perfect utopia. Utopia or like an Apex C. There's, I'm rambling like crazy, but I do think that belief is powerful in yourself or in others, or just being that light, being something people can depend on. Those Harriets in the world that, nurture the souls that might save us if she's not saving them, like that kind of shit. I dig it. And this book is something special. It's basically like, it means a ton to me, and I know I'm not alone.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with all of that. And I really want to echo the sentiments. You really feel it. Like there's a moment where, because you can see when she ignites and achieves like that final form towards the end, and she's holding Park, and she just like gives him the final punch, but then sees her mom, and that she has that like final moment of rest. She basically says her goodbye to her mom, and even though she says her goodbye at that moment, she has both Harriet and Dr. Caro there for her, and that's where Dr. Caro gives her a promise. Some Batman Beyond shit here almost, but she's like, I'm going to train you, I'm going to work with you to figure out what happened to your mother, and we're going to save this city. So it makes me think like maybe there's a chance that they'll see her mother again, who knows? But I do gotta say, even that page at the final page of the story was where she says, Dr. Caro says to Cassia right before the final page, she says, but none of this will work if you don't believe. You need to believe me. Believe that we can do this, do you? And then it ends with a close-up shot of her face, and she's her fist gripped. You can see the amulet glowing. You can see her hair is still a little bit on fire. She's bruised. She's battered. She's bleeding. But she says, yes, I believe you. Let's do it. And I thought that was just one of the most badass endings. I knew he was going to end it in an open-ended way, because that's the way they're gonna keep you wanting more. Of course, they're gonna have to end it that way so that people be like, "Oh fuck, I need more." And that's how we all felt immediately. Like that was all of our reaction. I remember like everyone's reaction basically after the review. With all the list of the amazing heaps of praise that we were throwing at this title, appropriately so. We were all saying how it sucked. That the worst thing about reading this was that we had to wait for the next part. That's the worst thing about reading this, is that you're gonna have
I
to
don't know
wait.
how long we're gonna have to wait either.
I have no idea. That's the worst part. That's the worst part. That I'm sure it won't be like as long as we've waited for this one.
Yeah,
You know what I mean. But
Books
still,
like this don't just follow the sky. They take a lot of practice.
And how are they? Someone asked a very good question and said, "How are they going to do the next one? Are they going to do another like this format? Yeah, is it going to do like another hardcover? Is it going to be Kickstarter? Are you going to do an ongoing? Are you going to do miniseries?" I think those are all fantastic questions, and I think we'll get answers when they're ready, when they have the answers, of course. And I know that's
it'll be one page a month in the Massiverse serial that Kyle's making right now with Favorologist, and then you put together No, but you don't know what Kyle's doing. I also loved in this the way that they show the reactions, almost like you'd see in anime, where they like the characters all like chibi and like the reactions all amplified. And in this, they there's no coloration in it except for Harriet's glasses, which are really funny because I guess it's not a part of her anatomy, so it doesn't change color. Although, yeah, it begs more questions. But no, I like that. It gives a little like cuteness to this book that I really like. Also, Lillian's cool as hell. We didn't have much time to talk about her, but hopefully we get to see her. Like Big Batgirl Upside, she was fun. All of the friends in this are freaking great.
There's a lot to look forward to. Like they set up enough so that you're not like oh I got like there's not much. No, you still look forward to Thomas. You still look forward to more Harry. You still look forward to Lillian. So it's like I'm glad that there's still a lot for us to discover about Apex and its people.
We saw in Massiverse, right? We saw in the future there was 2 other characters with superpowers, right? Blue and green, right? So presumably that could be your friends. And I get big Sailor Moon vibes from this, like the transformation, especially in this with the symbols and stuff like that. There's major Sailor Moon upside of this. Sailor Moon's rad as hell.
Hell yeah. I think overall this was just an incredible addition to the Massiverse. I really think like with Marshall or Radiant Black, I think Cassie is my favorite character in the Massiverse. I really do. Like, it just really everything in this book worked for me. The art, I think Erica, like I had to really. I'm gonna definitely get a commission from Erica at some point because I saw that her commission list opened not too long ago, and I think she's one of the most exciting talents working in comic books right now. I'm following everything she's doing everywhere. Yeah. I can't wait for
Stormbreakers is broken if her name isn't on that list. Like, you know what I mean? Like legit, she's an icon. She's on the map for me. Like
they did Women of Marvel. She did the cover. She's doing some covers for Marvel. Like she does. I see her do it. She did a cover recently for Captain Marvel that was really cute.
Nice.
And I pre-ordered that.
It's great to see her career blooming after this.
Mm-hmm. She draws a lot of Betsy Braddock, which I find like very appropriate because like her art style was really good for that. But I can't wait for more from this entire creative team. I gotta say, Ladies and gentlemen, take a bow for this incredible book. Erica Desso, Matt Grumi, Monte Bicacera, you guys, and Kyle Higgins, and Michael Basuto, and Sabrina, and wait, there's one more. And Lorenzo. Everyone involved with this book, you guys killed it. Did a fantastic job. What did you guys think overall? Did you love it? Did you like it? What are your thoughts?
Top tier comic for me, it's a 9.5 for me. Like I think like there's like a couple pacing issues if you read it in the new format, but I think that like you'll be if you're looking to nitpick, I mean there's not much there, right? Like I think it exceeded expectations. It's worth the wait. And I just can't believe how this series is like like the Masterverse, it's like mitosis. We have like 4 cells that I care about like as much as the original. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, for me this book is I'd say 10 out of 10. Like it was my favorite book of this year so far. Definitely the best looking book, but like Bash was saying, like Cassie is just such an awesome and likable character. And Matt just does such a good job like just drawing you into like her world, and like even like her mom's an awesome character, as questionable her decisions she makes sometimes. She's like all the side characters are awesome. You got the Griffin in here, awesome villain. So yeah, this was definitely my favorite book of the year so far, and yeah, just also for me, I haven't read it in individual issues. Every time I've read this thing, I just kind of read it as a full thing. So I can't really see me doing anything different. Like I'll go in and kind of like do the fight scenes, like read the fight scenes here and there. But just the whole thing together, this thing is 10 out of 10 and incredible.
Easily, totally agreed. And I think one thing for me too, this book was very hyped, right? From the moment we saw her as Supermassive, I think all 4 of us missed the Kickstarter, but in general, the book was really hyped, and it's hard for something to live up to the hype, and this book definitely did. And I also want to add that I really appreciate and I'm really thankful for them that they added a lot of the back matter in the individual issues, because a lot of it is really really cool. It's especially the one where they go from like sketch to Erica's pencils and inks, and then and then Igor's like colors. That stuff.
Because you get the Ashcan with the 3rd issue, which is the backup story. Yeah, you get that. If you get the Kickstarter edition, you're gonna get that in addition to it, like in the hardcover. It comes with the hardcover.
But I'm saying it's really cool that they added that to the
So I can't believe
they really didn't have to. Me too. They really didn't have to.
Like you were getting I talked about this with some of the guys before. Like a DC Black Label book is $7.99 US and it's 50 pages. Inferno Girl Red is $5.99 US and it's 46 pages. And it's the same. It's this, like the cardstock is the same. It's a square bound book. It's
no ads too. No ads.
Exactly. So it's like if you think about it, you're getting the same, if not more. And the quality, in my opinion, is the same, if not more. And I'm comparing it strictly to the One Bad Day or the prestige level books in terms of physical quality. So it's like you really can't go wrong. It's such a good deal. And I have the book right in front of me, book 1 and 2 here, and I've been flipping through them all show long as we've been talking about it. And it's such a nice book to hold. It's pretty hard to bend too because it's so well made. So props to the team. I noticed this little detail on the back of the book. It has the Image Comics logo, and then under it says "For the People." I really like that. I like that this book has like this message of "For the People" spread throughout. I feel like it's embedded within the DNA of Apex City. So it's really cool to see it extend beyond the pages of the book, or even just to see that it's part of the things that the creative team believe in. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they changed the landscape, and it's great because it's literally everyone's creating, and it's for the people, and the people are paid for their contributions and treated well. When you usher in these amazing IPs like Inferno Girl Red, yeah, you deserve to be paid handsomely for it. And I'm glad that people can support themselves. Like the fact that Matt Groom, I don't think comics is a full-time job yet, which is fucked to me. Like when you're putting out this kind of stuff and it's not your full-time job, it should be. So they definitely deserve to be able to live off writing stories like these.
Yeah, support Matt Groom, ladies and gentlemen. I remember like Kyle tweeted like if Marvel and DC and other editors aren't running to like sign Matt Groom to write some books or get him to work with him after reading Inferno Girl Red, then they're crazy. And I honestly agree. Like if if you read Inferno Girl Red and you're not looking for any of those creators to work in your company, you're crazy. You're doing something wrong, because that's the talent you should be going after. They're the ones who are going to be putting out the best shit in comics. So yeah, speaking of, where can you find us? You can find us at Radiant Black Podcast on Patreon. We have Patreon if you want to support the show, directly. There's two options, both super cheap. I think they're like $1, $3, something like that. Thank you so much to our current Patreons, to Noah, to Patrick, and to Joe J. You guys are incredible. We're also, you can support the show for free if you want to just drop a review. We're doing this new thing now where anybody who reviews the podcast on like App Podcasts or any of the existing platforms where you could drop a review will actually put you for 2 entries in future giveaways. So you have double the chance of anyone else, or 2 times the chance to win giveaway. There you go. Yeah, exactly. We're giving away so much shit. Speaking of giveaways, we're giving away Dead Lucky Volume 1. The giveaway is on our Twitter right now. It's very easy to join. Basically, there's no steps. So yeah, if you're interested in reading Dead Lucky, which is awesome, definitely get on top of that. And where can you find us? You can find us on Twitter at Radiant Black Pod. You can find us on Gmail, radiantblackpodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to message us if you want to be part of the show. I think we do have a guest for Radiant Black 23 coming up. Someone asked if they could be on the show. I'm very excited because I always love it when people ask, and get more people to talk Massiverse with. And last but not least, what are we going to talk about next? Matt just mentioned there's a lot going on in the Massiverse. We're actually coming up with a really cool Massiverse video that I will not share more details about because reasons, but be excited. And you'll catch us. You can catch us talking about No One soon, because our No One #1 review should be dropping soon, but No One #2 itself should be coming out soon. And we're all very into that book. There's a lot going on in that book. There's a whole podcast that was released alongside the book that's like an in-universe podcast made by the Black Market narrative people with Patton Oswalt and I think it's Rachel A. Cook, right? So there you go. Check that out.
Also, Inferno Girl Red Book 1 Kickstarter edition's available still on the Black Market
Is it
narrative
really?
website. Yeah, it says I can
Holy
add to cart
shit.
right now. So
There you
I
go.
actually did not get it. I'm going to be taking it. So there's one less copy, and unless it's the last copy on there right now, there should still be some in the future when at least in the time before this gets up. So you have the opportunity.
Yeah, it's so worth it. Like, those Kickstarters are the best format that you can get that book in, because it's a huge, basically deluxe edition size hardcover. You get the back matter, of course, and then you support the creators directly. So it's literally just win, 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 win. And of course, they're limited, so they're not going to be there forever. They will eventually run out. So yeah, check those out. Thank you so much for checking us out. We'll see you guys next time. Stay blazing.